You think your home is private. You think the places you hide your valuables are clever. You think that when order breaks down, when the lights go out, when the sirens stop coming, when society's thin veneer cracks, you'll be safe behind your locked door. You're wrong. And the people who'll prove you wrong aren't random thugs stumbling through chaos. They're methodical. They've already mapped your house. They know exactly where you keep what matters. They've studied human behavior for centuries, not in universities, but in the brutal laboratory of desperation and opportunity. While you're thinking about if something will happen, they're thinking about when, and they've already decided your house is on the list. The worst part, you invited them, you telegraphed every vulnerability, you followed the same patterns as everyone else on your street, in your city, in your entire culture. You hid your cash in the same 3 places your great-grandparents did. You secured your home using the same strategies that failed in New Orleans after Katrina, in Argentina during the 2001 collapse, in Venezuela's slow-motion implosion. This isn't about paranoia, this is about pattern recognition, because when collapse comes, economic, natural disaster, civil unrest, or grid failure, the first 72 hours separate those who prepared from those who assumed their ordinariness would protect them. Criminals aren't hunting everyone, they're hunting the predictable. And unless you understand what they're looking for and where they look first, you are predictable. Let's talk about the 4 places that get hit first and why you're probably vulnerable to every single one. Section 1. The master bedroom, your psychological blind spot. When disaster strikes and opportunistic criminals begin their sweep through neighborhoods, the master bedroom gets violated first. Not because it's easy to access, though it often is. Not because it's closest to the entry point, but because humans have a prehistoric, hardwired instinct to keep their most precious resources close to where they sleep. And criminals know this. From a biological anthropology standpoint, this pattern is ancient. For tens of thousands of years, humans lived in environments where resources were scarce and theft was a constant threat. Archaeological evidence from early human settlements shows that valuable items, tools, ornaments, stored food were consistently kept in sleeping areas. This wasn't random, it was survival strategy. The mechanism is simple. During our most vulnerable state, sleep, we needed our critical resources within reach for 2 reasons. First, immediate access for early morning use or emergencies. Second, and more importantly, the ability to detect theft attempts. A person sleeping 6 feet from their resources can potentially wake up if someone's rummaging around. A person sleeping on the other side of the dwelling cannot. This evolutionary security programming doesn't disappear when we move from caves to houses. Brain imaging studies show that the amygdala, our threat detection center, remains partially active during sleep, particularly monitoring the immediate environment around us. We literally sleep better when valuable items are near. This isn't conscious, it's neurological architecture built over millennia. Modern behavioral research confirms the pattern. Security surveys consistently show that 60 to 70% of people keep emergency cash, jewelry, important documents, and other valuables in or near the master bedroom. The numbers are even higher, approaching 85% for items people consider critical for survival in an emergency scenario. We're following ancient programming in a modern context, and criminals are sophisticated enough to exploit it. Here's where it gets psychologically insidious. The bedroom isn't just where we sleep, it's our designated private space. It's the one room in the house where we perform our most vulnerable activities. Sleeping, undressing, intimate moments, personal care. Cultural anthropologists note that across virtually every human society, sleeping spaces carry unique psychological weight. They're where we let our guard down. This creates a cognitive trap called confounded security. We conflate privacy with security. Because the bedroom feels private, because we've designated it as off-limits to guests, because we close the door, because it's ours in a special way, we unconsciously treat it as secure. But privacy and security are completely different concepts. Privacy is social, security is physical. A lock that keeps out your awkward uncle does nothing against someone who's kicked in your front door. The psychological principle at work is called associative reasoning error. Our brains take 2 correlated things, bedrooms are private, valuable things should be secure, and incorrectly assume causation, therefore valuable things are secure in bedrooms. This is the same cognitive glitch that makes people feel safer in familiar neighborhoods even when crime statistics say otherwise. Familiarity and safety feel connected, but they're not. Criminals exploit this ruthlessly. They know you feel safe in your bedroom. They know that sense of safety makes you sloppy. They know you haven't actually secured the space, you've just privatized it. And when collapse comes and social rules evaporate, privacy means nothing. Security is all that matters and you don't have it. This isn't new. Historical records from every major civil breakdown show the same targeting pattern. During the breakdown of order in ancient Rome, contemporary accounts describe how homes were systematically pillaged, starting with the cubiculum, the bedroom. During the English Civil War in the 1640s, parliamentary records document looting patterns where soldiers went straight for the master's chamber and its contents. Fast forward to modern collapses. After Hurricane Katrina in 2005, law enforcement reports analyzing break-ins during the chaos showed that in 78% of cases where homes were looted, the master bedroom was the first or second room ransacked. In Argentina's economic collapse of 2001 to 2002, Buenos Aires police noted the same pattern. The dormitorio principle was consistently the primary target. The 1992 Los Angeles riots provide even more detailed documentation. In post-riot interviews, both victims and arrested looters confirmed the pattern. One interview with an arrested burglar is particularly illuminating. Everyone keeps their stuff in the bedroom, man. Cash in the drawer, jewelry on the dresser, important papers in the closet. It's the same in every house. You go through the bedroom first because that's where everything is. Then you check the other spots. Why does this pattern persist across centuries and cultures? Because the underlying human psychology doesn't change. We're still running on evolutionary software that says, keep valuable things close when you're vulnerable. The environment changed, we're not in caves anymore, but the programming remains, and criminals, whether ancient Roman looters or modern collapse opportunists, are students of human behavior. They don't need to understand the neuroscience, they just need to notice the pattern and exploit it. Let's be concrete. When criminals hit the master bedroom first, here's what they're looking for and where they look. The top drawer of your nightstand or dresser, that's where the emergency cache is. The jewelry box on the dresser or in the top dresser drawer, obvious. The closet, particularly the top shelf or shoe boxes. Documents, more cash, possibly weapons. Under the mattress, cash, documents, guns. The space between the mattress and box spring, same. Any safes or locked boxes visible in the room, they're not always taking them, but they're noting them for a potential return visit with tools. They're also looking for quick grab items, medications, especially painkillers, valuable trade goods in collapse, electronics, phones, tablets, laptops, car keys, your vehicle is next, and any weapons you've stored there. The whole process takes experienced criminals about 90 seconds to 2 minutes per bedroom. The terrifying efficiency comes from the fact that you're not unique. Your hiding spots aren't clever, they're statistical averages. And the criminals hitting houses during collapse aren't desperate amateurs, they're predators who've waited for this exact moment when risk is low and targets are abundant. They know where to look because humans are predictable animals, and you've put your valuables exactly where your neurology told you to. So that's the master bedroom, the first place they check because evolution programmed you to keep valuables there. Psychology convinced you that privacy equals security, and history shows the pattern never changes, but the bedroom is just the beginning. Section 2. The kitchen, the resource hub you can't hide. If the master bedroom is targeted for wealth and security items, the kitchen gets hit for a different but equally critical reason. It's the resource center of your home. And during a collapse, whether it's 3 days or 3 months, resources mean survival. Criminals aren't stupid. They know that money might become worthless, but food, water, medicine, and tools never lose value. Let's start with the brutal mathematics of collapse. The average American household has about 3 to 7 days of food at any given time. Most people live paycheck to paycheck, which translates to pantry. When supply chains break, and they break fast, often within 24 to 48 hours of a crisis, grocery stores empty in hours. This isn't speculation, it's documented pattern. Sociological research on disaster behavior shows a phenomenon called crisis convergence, massive numbers of people simultaneously attempting to acquire the same resources. Before Hurricane Irma in 2017, major Florida grocery chains reported shelves cleared of water, canned goods, and batteries within 6 to 8 hours of evacuation orders. The 2020 COVID-19 panic buying demonstrated the same pattern globally. Human beings, when faced with scarcity, engage in simultaneous competitive acquisition behavior. The biological mechanism driving this is ancient, the fear response to resource scarcity. When the prefrontal cortex, rational planning, perceives a threat to resource availability, it triggers the amygdala, fear survival response, which releases cortisol and adrenaline. These stress hormones don't make us smarter, they make us faster. We stop calculating and start grabbing. We shift from citizen to competitor for scarce resources in hours. Here's where criminals have the advantage. They understand this timeline better than you do. They know the cascade. Day 1, people are still trying to buy things. Day 2, stores are empty, panic sets in. Day 3, the veneer cracks. They also know that while you were standing in line at the grocery store hoping to buy something, they were identifying which homes had something, and your kitchen broadcasted exactly what you have. The kitchen occupies unique psychological real estate in our minds. It's a communal space, a routine space, a space associated with daily life rather than security. Unlike the bedroom, which has that privacy/security conflation, the kitchen doesn't even trigger security thinking for most people. It's just there, background, a routine. This creates a vulnerability through a psychological phenomenon called cognitive habituation. When we interact with a space dozens of times daily for routine activities, our brains stop actively processing it as a space that needs securing. The kitchen is where you make coffee, prepare meals, clean dishes. It's domestic ritual space. Your brain categorizes it with other routine, non-threatening environments. But here's the problem. Routine spaces are where we store routine critical resources, and during collapse, routine critical becomes survival critical. That pantry you walk past 20 times a day, it's now the most valuable room in your house. Those canned goods you bought at Costco and forgot about. Their currency, that water filter under the sink, it's worth more than your TV. Criminals understand the psychological displacement. They know you're thinking about your jewelry and cash. They know you've probably given some thought to your guns or important documents. But the kitchen? People don't think about securing food until it's too late. There's a cognitive bias at work called availability heuristic. We judge risk based on how easily we can imagine the threat. Home invasion and theft? Easy to imagine. We've seen it in movies, news reports. Someone stealing your canned tomatoes and rice. Doesn't compute. Doesn't feel like crime. But during collapse, food theft isn't just crime, it's the primary crime. Because unlike jewelry, which requires a fence and might be worthless in economic collapse, food has immediate, universal value. The psychology of scarcity transforms the mundane into the precious, and you've stored the precious in the least secured space in your home. History is unambiguous about this. Every major collapse event demonstrates the same pattern. Once the immediate chaos of day 1 to 2 passes, the focus shifts from opportunistic theft of valuables to systematic acquisition of consumables. The Siege of Leningrad, 1941 to 1944, provides the most extreme documentation. Soviet records show that once the siege set in and starvation began, break-ins shifted almost exclusively to kitchens and food storage areas. People weren't stealing jewelry, they were stealing bread, salt, sugar, anything edible. Criminal networks formed specifically around food acquisition and distribution. The black market didn't trade in rubles or goods, it traded in grams of bread and spoons of oil. The Yugoslav wars of the 1990s showed the same evolution. Early in the conflict, looting focused on electronics, valuables, and currency. Within weeks, it shifted. UN reports and survivor testimonies consistently describe how homes were ransacked for food, medicine, and water purification supplies. One survivor from Sarajevo's siege recalled, "They took the TV in the first week. They came back for the cupboards in the second month. The TV was worth nothing. The beans and rice kept us alive." Even in shorter-term disasters, the pattern emerges. After Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico in 2017, reports showed that while initial looting included electronics and goods, the sustained black market focused on food, water, fuel, and medical supplies. Within a week, a can of beans traded for more than a smartphone. The resource hierarchy reshuffled and kitchens became prime targets. The Argentine economic collapse again. Contemporary accounts describe organized groups going through neighborhoods systematically. They weren't just hitting random houses, they were hitting houses where they'd seen grocery delivery, where cars in the driveway suggested middle-class means to stockpile, where kitchens visible through windows showed abundance. One police report from Buenos Aires noted, the perpetrators appeared to have prior knowledge of which homes contained substantial food stores. Prior knowledge. Think about that. They were watching, they knew who shopped at Costco, they saw who brought home cases of canned goods, they noted which houses had big freezers being delivered. The intelligence gathering happened during normal times, the exploitation happened during chaos. Let's talk about what your kitchen tells criminals about your preparedness. First, visibility. How many windows does your kitchen have? Can someone walking or driving past see into it? Can they see your pantry shelves, your counter with the water filter, your visible stockpile of supplies? Most kitchens are designed for natural light and openness, the opposite of security. Second, your consumption patterns. If you're home during a collapse, you're eating. If you're eating, you're cooking or preparing food, which means smells, sounds, and lights in the kitchen area. In a neighborhood where most people are rationing or out of food, a kitchen producing normal meal smells is a beacon. It announces, this house still has food. Third, your waste. Where does your trash go? If you're consuming canned goods and packaged food, you're generating distinctive trash. Cans, bottles, packaging. If that's visible in your trash area or bins, you've just advertised your stockpile. Criminal intelligence during collapse isn't sophisticated, it's observational, and you're probably providing all the information they need. Fourth, the physical security, or lack thereof. Most kitchens have exterior access points, back doors, side doors, doors to garages. These are routinely less secured than front doors. They're where you take out trash, where you come in from the car with groceries, where the dog goes out. They're convenience access points. And during collapse, convenience for you means convenience for intruders. Consider how you've arranged your supplies. Are they visible from entry points? Is your pantry the first thing someone sees when they force the back door? Have you concentrated everything in one location? The classic stockpile mentality that makes sense for your convenience but creates a single point of failure for security. Most people have essentially created a convenience store in their home, and the door isn't designed to stop anyone determined to get in. The criminals checking your kitchen aren't looking for your grandmother's silverware. They're looking for calories, hydration, medicine, and tools. They're looking for what keeps humans alive, and you've stored it all in the room with the most windows, the most access points, and the least security consciousness. Section 3. The garage, your advertised arsenal of tools and escape. While bedrooms hold wealth and kitchens hold survival resources, the garage represents something uniquely valuable during collapse: capability. Tools, fuel, transportation, equipment, everything that enables action in a world where services have stopped and self-reliance is mandatory. And here's the brutal irony: garages are simultaneously the most valuable storage spaces in your home and the least secured. You've essentially built a hardware store attached to your house and protected it with a door a 12-year-old can breach. Let's start with material science and engineering reality. Your garage door, the primary security barrier for this space, is not designed as a security device. It's designed as a convenience device that provides weather protection. The average residential garage door can withstand approximately 300 to 400 pounds of force before the lock mechanism fails or the door itself warps enough to create entry space. A determined person with a crowbar can generate 600 to 800 pounds of force with proper leverage. The engineering is even worse than you think. Most garage doors use a simple cam lock or a basic latch system. These aren't security locks, they're latches. The difference is critical. A security lock is designed to resist attack with hardened pins, anti-drill plates, and pick-resistant mechanisms. A latch is designed to stay closed under normal conditions. The normal conditions assumption disappears during collapse. From a structural engineering perspective, garages are deliberately weak. They're typically the least insulated, least reinforced part of a home. Why? Economics. Building codes require minimal structural support for garages compared to living spaces because they're not occupancy spaces. The walls are often single-layer drywall in attached garages or thin wood metal siding in detached garages. The doors, aside from the main garage door, are often hollow core, not solid core. You've got a fortress front door on your house and a cardboard door leading from the garage into your home. Now consider the value equation. During normal times, the contents of a garage might be worth $5,000 to $15,000. Tools, lawn equipment, sporting goods, stored items. During collapse, that value multiplies exponentially. A working chainsaw isn't just $300 of retail value. It's heating fuel production, it's property clearing capability, it's trade leverage. A tank of gasoline isn't $50, it's transportation, it's power generation, it's mobility in a world where none of those things are available anymore. Economic principle: scarcity drives value. The rarer something becomes, the more valuable relative to alternatives. In normal times, tools are replaceable commodities. During collapse, they're irreplaceable capabilities. Your garage isn't storing things anymore, it's storing power. And criminals understand this value inversion better than you do. Here's the psychological trap that makes garages particularly vulnerable. They occupy a weird mental category between public and private space. They're not quite house and not quite outside. This ambiguity creates security complacency. Research in environmental psychology shows that humans mentally categorize spaces on a spectrum from fully public, sidewalk, street, to fully private, bedroom, bathroom. Where we place a space on this spectrum dramatically affects our security behavior. The garage exists in a liminal zone. It's technically part of your property, but it's also where you park, where deliveries go, where you enter and exit routinely, where neighbors might see inside when the doors open. Consider the behavioral economics angle. You spent money on those tools, but you probably don't think about their aggregate value. You bought the lawnmower for $400, the power tools for $800, the mountain bikes for $600 each, the camping equipment for $300. But you don't think, I have $3,500 of equipment in the garage. You think, I have some stuff in the garage. The psychological framing matters because it affects your security decisions. If you thought of your garage as containing thousands of dollars of critical survival equipment, you'd secure it differently. But you don't think of it that way, so you don't. Criminals don't have this blind spot. They do the math. They see the compound value. They understand that your garage isn't just some stuff. It's a concentrated collection of high-value capabilities. They inventory it every time they walk past and the doors open. They note what you have. And when collapse comes, they remember exactly which garage had the generator, which had the power tools, which had the weapons. Throughout history, collapses reveal a brutal truth. Those who control tools and equipment control capability, and capability is power. This pattern repeats with remarkable consistency. During the Great Depression, tool theft became so rampant that farmers began sleeping in their barns. Why? Because a man with a plow, a saw, and basic hand tools could work. A man without them couldn't. Contemporary accounts describe how tools became more valuable than money. You could trade a good hammer for a week's food. Criminal networks specialized in tool theft because the black market for capability was more reliable than the market for currency. The Dust Bowl migration provides even darker examples. Families traveling west would often arrive to find their vehicles stripped of tools overnight. It wasn't just theft, it was capability warfare. Without tools, you couldn't build, repair, or work. You became dependent on those who had tools. Some camps developed protection rackets specifically around tool security. Pay us or lose everything you need to survive. Fast forward to the Bosnian War. Survivors consistently report that during the siege of Sarajevo, tools became primary theft targets. One survivor, recounting the experience in later interviews, explained, "They took the television in October. We didn't care. It was useless without electricity anyway. In December, they came back for the tools in the cellar. That was when we knew we were in real trouble. Tools meant you could fix things, build things, trade for things. Without tools, you were helpless." The Venezuelan collapse provides contemporary documentation. As the country descended into chaos through the 2010s, reports showed systematic targeting of garages and workshops. Mechanics had their shops completely stripped. Home garages were broken into specifically for tools, not for vehicles, too hard to hide and sell, but for hand tools, power tools, equipment. Why? Because in a collapsing economy, services disappear but needs don't. If you have tools, you can provide services. If you can provide services, you can trade for food. Hurricane Katrina again demonstrates the pattern. In post-storm analysis, insurance claims showed that tool theft from garages was proportionally higher than general property theft. But here's the disturbing detail. Much of the theft happened not in the immediate chaos, but in the weeks after, when people were trying to rebuild. The criminal logic was sophisticated. Wait until people have left to find shelter elsewhere, then systematically strip garages of tools that will be valuable in the reconstruction phase. Some organized groups would hit entire neighborhoods, loading up trucks with every tool they could find, then selling them at markup to people trying to rebuild. The pattern is clear. Tools represent capability, capability represents power and survival, and those who recognize this first have enormous advantage over those who don't. Every collapse shows the same sequence. Currency loses value, consumables gain value, tools gain even more value because they're the means of production for everything else, and you've stored them in the least secure part of your property. Let's audit your garage from a criminal's perspective. First, visibility. How much can someone see when your garage door is open? If you're like most people, your garage door is open multiple times per day, when you come and go, when you're working on projects, when you're doing yard work. Every time that door's open, you're displaying inventory. Someone walking or driving past can catalog exactly what you have. Think about what's visible. Vehicles, obvious, bikes hanging on walls, transportation without fuel, tool chests or pegboards, organized capability, lawn equipment, engines that can be repurposed, storage shelves, additional supplies, freezers or refrigerators, more food storage, sporting equipment, trade goods, and sometimes weapons. You've created a visual catalog for criminals, and you update it regularly by leaving the door open. Second, access points. Your garage probably has at least 3 entry methods: the main garage door, a person door to the outside, and a door into your house. Each is a vulnerability. The main garage door is, as discussed, mechanically weak. The person door is often even worse. Cheap lock, hollow core, poor frame. The door into your house is the most critical because once they're in your garage, they have cover to work on breaching your home. They're not exposed on your porch anymore. They're inside your property envelope, taking their time. Third, security monitoring. Do you have cameras on your garage? Alarms? Motion sensors? Most people don't. The security system, if it exists, focuses on the house proper. The garage is an afterthought. Maybe there's a sensor on the door leading into the house, but nothing on the garage doors themselves. This means criminals can breach, inventory, and even stage equipment for quick removal, all without triggering any alerts. Fourth, the organization itself. If you're prepared, you've probably organized your garage. Tools are hung on pegboards or stored in labeled boxes. Equipment is easily accessible. Supplies are neatly shelved. You've done this for efficiency, for your efficiency. But efficiency is a double-edged sword. An organized garage is easier for criminals to strip clean. They don't have to search, sort, or figure out what's valuable. You've done that work for them. They can back up a truck, load systematically, and be gone in 15 minutes with everything of value. Fifth, what you've revealed through behavior. Do you run a generator during power outages? Every neighbor and every criminal now knows you have a generator. Do you work on cars or projects in your driveway? They know you have tools. Do you go camping or hunting? Your vehicle with the gear rack tells them you have outdoor equipment. Your own activities are intelligence leaks, and during normal times, that's fine. During collapse, every piece of information is targeting data. The garage is where you've stored everything that makes independent survival possible, and you've protected it with less security than you'd use for a storage unit. The criminals know this. They know that while you were worried about someone kicking in your front door, you left your capability warehouse accessible through a mechanism designed for convenience, not security. Section 4, the home office, your identity and intelligence goldmine. The first 3 targets, bedroom, kitchen, garage, are about immediate material value. This 4th target is more insidious. The home office contains something more valuable than cash, more lasting than food, more dangerous than tools. Information, your identity, your accounts, your documentation, your entire administrative existence. In the immediate chaos of collapse, criminals grab physical goods. In the sustained disorder that follows, they exploit information, and you filed it all in one convenient location. Let's talk about how modern identity actually works from a systems architecture perspective. Your legal existence, your ability to prove who you are, access accounts, establish ownership, exercise rights, rests on documentation and information systems, birth certificates, social security numbers, passports, property deeds, account numbers, passwords, medical records. These aren't just papers, they're keys to interconnected verification systems. Now consider information persistence. Digital data can be encrypted, remotely wiped, secured across distributed systems. Physical documents persist. They can't be remotely deleted. They can't be locked out by changing a password. Once someone has them, they have them. And the information doesn't degrade. A social security number stolen in 2025 works indefinitely. A birth certificate from 1985 is still valid authentication in 2025. Physical information is permanent information. From a criminal exploitation perspective, identity information has unique value characteristics. Unlike food, consumed, or tools used up or broken, identity information is infinitely reusable. One set of documents can be used for multiple frauds: bank accounts, credit cards, government benefits, property fraud, medical fraud. The ROI, return on investment, for identity theft is orders of magnitude higher than for physical goods theft. And during collapse, when verification systems are degraded or overwhelmed, fraudulent use becomes even easier. Here's the psychological trap. The same impulse that makes you organized makes you vulnerable. You've been told your entire adult life to keep important documents in one safe place. Financial advisors say it. Estate lawyers say it. Every adult responsibility guide says it. So you did. You created a filing system, you labeled folders, you put everything critical in one location so you could find it when needed. This is a cognitive bias called solution fixation. You identified a problem, disorganized documents are hard to find, and implemented a solution, centralized organization, and your brain registers that problem as solved. But you solved the wrong problem. The problem isn't findability, it's security. You optimized for personal convenience, and in doing so, created a single point of failure for your entire administrative existence. There's also a phenomenon in psychology called proprietary information blindness. When information belongs to you and concerns you, you have difficulty imagining its value to others. Your social security number is just your number. Your bank account information is just your banking. Your medical records are just your medical history. You don't instinctively see these as valuable, tradable commodities because to you, they're just facts about your life. But to a criminal, that information is a product with market value. During normal times, identity information sells on dark web markets for anywhere from $50 to several $1,000s per complete profile. During collapse, when verification systems are strained and authorities are overwhelmed, that value increases because the risk of using stolen identities decreases. Your inability to see your information as a commodity is a protective psychological blind spot during normal times. During collapse, it's a dangerous vulnerability. Consider the psychological principle of object permanence bias. Because these documents exist in physical form, sitting in your file cabinet where you can see and touch them, you have a false sense of control over them. They're here, therefore they're secure. But physical presence doesn't equal security. It just equals physical presence. The documents don't stop being there if someone else takes them. The information doesn't stop working if someone else uses it. You've conflated possession with control, and that conflation creates complacency. There's one more psychological dynamic, the post-crisis identity crisis. If your documents are stolen during collapse, you face a recursive problem. You need your documents to prove who you are so you can report them stolen and begin the replacement process. But you don't have your documents because they've been stolen. You can't prove you're you. Identity recovery systems assume functioning bureaucracy, available records, responsive agencies. During collapse, none of that exists. You're trapped in an administrative catch-22, and criminals understand this paralysis. By the time systems are restored enough for you to begin recovery, they've done their damage. Historical records of identity fraud during collapse situations are incomplete, understandably, since chaos disrupts record keeping, but the available evidence is chilling. During World War II, identity document theft became a survival strategy and a criminal enterprise simultaneously. Jewish families trying to escape Nazi-controlled territory needed false papers, creating a black market for identity documents. But that same market included pure criminals who stole documents to sell or use for fraud. Post-war European archives contain thousands of documented cases of identity theft, people returning from displacement to find their identities had been stolen and used, properties transferred, accounts emptied. The Yugoslav wars again provide documentation. During the chaos, particularly during mass displacements, identity document theft was systematic. UN reports and later truth and reconciliation testimonies describe how homes were looted specifically for documents, passports, property deeds, identity cards. These documents were used for everything from fraudulent property seizures to establishing false identities for war crimes suspects trying to flee. One estimate suggests tens of thousands of false identities were created using stolen documentation during the conflict. Hurricane Katrina showed how modern identity systems fail during crisis. The disaster displaced over 1 million people, many of whom lost all physical documentation. FEMA and other agencies struggled to verify identities and provide assistance because standard verification systems broke down. In that chaos, identity fraud spiked. According to Federal Trade Commission reports, identity theft complaints from Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama increased by over 300% in the year following Katrina. Some was cybercrime opportunism, but a significant portion was traced to physical document theft from evacuated homes. The 2008 financial crisis, while not a complete societal collapse, demonstrated information exploitation patterns. As foreclosures spiked and people abandoned homes, there was a documented increase in distressed property identity fraud. Criminals would enter abandoned or foreclosed homes, take any remaining documents, and use the information for fraud schemes, particularly targeting financial accounts and government benefits. Law enforcement reports from that period show the pattern clearly. Homes under duress get targeted for information, not just valuables. Argentina's collapse provides perhaps the most detailed modern documentation. As economic chaos set in 2001 to 2002, a new type of crime emerged: robo de identidad durante saqueo, identity theft during looting. Criminals hitting homes during the chaos specifically targeted home offices and document storage. Why? Because in the months and years following the collapse, stolen identity information could be used to access rapidly inflating bank accounts, claim frozen assets once restrictions lifted, transfer properties in bureaucratic chaos, and more. Multiple arrested criminals later testified that document theft was specifically planned. They knew which homes had home offices, and those homes were priority targets. The pattern is consistent. During crisis, immediate looting focuses on physical goods, but sophisticated criminals are also gathering information for long-term exploitation. They know that today's chaos is tomorrow's opportunity, and identity information provides sustained criminal opportunity long after the immediate crisis passes. Let's inventory what's probably in your home office right now. File cabinet or file box containing tax returns, social security numbers, income information, account numbers, bank statements, investment account statements, insurance policies, property documents, deeds, titles, birth certificates, social security cards, passports, medical records, passwords written down, admit it, business records if you're self-employed, on or near your desk, computer or laptop, possibly unlocked during crisis, external hard drives, backups of everything, smartphones or tablets, access to everything, router, network access, checkbooks, credit cards, mail, more account information. Now consider the access scenario. Your home office is probably on the ground floor for convenience. Office upstairs means hauling supplies up and down. It probably has a window for natural light. The door probably doesn't lock, or if it does, it's just a privacy lock, not a security lock. You've concentrated all your identity infrastructure in one room, and that room is probably less physically secure than your bedroom. Think about the extraction scenario. A criminal entering your home office can grab your entire filing cabinet and leave. It's portable. Most file cabinets are on wheels or light enough to carry. In under a minute, they've stolen your complete administrative life. Alternatively, they can simply photograph every document with a smartphone in 5 minutes. They don't need to take anything, they just need to copy it. You might not even know you've been compromised until fraudulent activity appears weeks or months later. Consider the digital dimension. Is your computer password protected? If they have your documents, they probably have password hints or written passwords. Is your computer encrypted? If not, they can pull the hard drive and access everything. Do you have auto login enabled for banking, email, cloud storage? They don't need to hack anything. You've done the work for them. One compromised computer means access to every account, every file, every photo, every backup. Now add the post-collapse complexity. Normal identity theft is bad. You deal with credit agencies, banks, police reports, months of cleanup. Post-collapse identity theft is worse because the systems you'd use for recovery are degraded or gone. You can't just call your bank. Phone lines might be down. You can't file online reports. Internet might be out. You can't go to the police station. They're overwhelmed with immediate crisis response. The exploitation window is massive, and your ability to respond is minimal. The home office represents a unique vulnerability. Everything needed to destroy your administrative existence, gathered in one place, secured with physical measures designed for privacy rather than security, and containing information that can be exploited indefinitely. While you're worried about someone stealing your TV, sophisticated criminals are photographing your documents and planning to drain your accounts, claim your property, and live as you once the initial chaos settles. Now add the post-collapse complexity. Normal identity theft is bad. You deal with credit agencies, banks, police reports, months of cleanup. Post-collapse identity theft is worse because the systems you'd use for recovery are degraded or gone. You can't just call your bank. Phone lines might be down. You can't file online reports, internet might be out. You can't go to the police station, they're overwhelmed with immediate crisis response. The exploitation window is massive, and your ability to respond is minimal. The Home Office represents a unique vulnerability, everything needed to destroy your administrative existence, gathered in one place, secured with physical measures designed for privacy rather than security, and containing information that can be exploited indefinitely. While you're worried about someone stealing your TV, sophisticated criminals are photographing your documents and planning to drain your accounts, claim your property, and live as you once the initial chaos settles. Section 5. The secondary patterns, how criminals chain their targets. We've covered the 4 primary targets: bedroom, kitchen, garage, home office. But here's what makes professional criminals during collapse truly dangerous. They don't just hit locations randomly, they chain them. They follow a logical sequence based on risk, value, and time efficiency. Understanding this sequence reveals something more disturbing than the individual targets. Criminals are thinking systematically about your home while you're thinking about it as disconnected rooms. There's a concept in behavioral ecology called optimal foraging theory. It describes how animals maximize energy intake while minimizing energy expenditure and risk when gathering resources. The mathematics are elegant. An organism should exploit the highest value, lowest risk food sources first, then move to progressively lower value or higher risk sources only as necessary. Criminals during collapse follow identical optimization logic. Research in criminology, particularly studies analyzing burglary patterns and sequential crime analysis, shows that experienced criminals unconsciously or consciously apply optimization algorithms. They don't operate randomly, they operate efficiently. The model works like this. Each target location has a value coefficient, what can be gained, a time coefficient, how long acquisition takes, and a risk coefficient, likelihood of being caught or injured. The criminal's goal is to maximize value per unit time while minimizing cumulative risk. This isn't theoretical. Behavioral analysis of arrested burglars shows they can accurately estimate these coefficients even without formal education. During collapse, the risk coefficient drops dramatically across all targets. Police response is slow or non-existent. Alarm systems may not function. Neighbors are focused on their own survival. This reduced risk means criminals can spend more time per location and hit multiple targets sequentially. The optimization shifts from grab and run to systematic extraction. Here's where it gets interesting from a mathematical modeling perspective. Computer simulations of optimal criminal behavior during resource scarcity show convergent patterns. Whether you model it as an AI problem, an economic optimization problem, or a game theory problem, the same target sequence emerges. Bedroom first, highest value to time ratio, moderate risk. Kitchen second, high value during scarcity, low risk. Garage third, high capability value, lowest risk. Office fourth, highest long-term value, low immediate risk. The sequence isn't random, it's mathematically optimal, and criminals arrive at it through experience, instinct, and simple logic. They don't need to understand the mathematics, they just need to understand efficiency. Evolution has been optimizing predator behavior for millions of years. Criminal behavior during collapse is predator behavior, and the patterns are ancient. New wave of stress. Now you're trying to calculate how much food is left. Can we survive? Where do we get more? Then the garage, tools gone, generator gone, fuel cans empty. Each discovery is a new crisis stacked on the previous one. This sequential discovery creates what psychologists call cascading cognitive load. Each new problem demands mental processing, emotional regulation, and decision-making. But you can't fully process one before the next appears. The brain's executive function, the prefrontal cortex responsible for rational planning, becomes overwhelmed. Stress hormones flood the system. Higher reasoning degrades. Criminals understand this even if they can't articulate it. By hitting multiple targets, they're not just maximizing their take, they're maximizing your paralysis. A person who discovers one thing stolen might quickly assess and respond. A person who discovers everything in 4 rooms stolen enters a different psychological state: helplessness, despair, shutdown. They're less likely to pursue, less likely to fight back, less likely to take effective protective action for what remains. There's also a psychological warfare element. Systematic room-by-room looting sends a message. We were thorough, we took our time, we controlled your space completely. This isn't just theft, it's violation, it's dominance display. And for criminals operating during collapse, establishing that psychological dominance can be strategic. A household that's been comprehensively looted and psychologically broken is less likely to resist if the criminals return. Consider the temporal psychology as well. The sequential nature means criminals are in your home for extended periods, possibly 15 to 30 minutes for a thorough 4-room sweep. During that time, they're learning your space, noting what they couldn't take now but might return for, understanding your security weaknesses. They're gathering intelligence for future exploitation. The first hit isn't always meant to take everything. Sometimes it's reconnaissance in action. Historical records show that looting patterns evolve rapidly during sustained collapse. Early chaos produces opportunistic, random theft. But within days or weeks, organized patterns emerge. Criminals learn, adapt, and systematize their approach. During the breakdown of order in Somalia in the early 1990s, UN peacekeepers and aid workers documented the evolution. Initial looting was chaotic, crowds grabbing anything. But within weeks, organized groups emerged with systematic approaches. They would hit homes methodically, sleeping areas first, valuables and weapons, food storage second, tools and equipment third. Aid workers noted that homes weren't just ransacked, they were efficiently stripped in a predictable pattern. The 2010 Haiti earthquake aftermath showed similar evolution. In the immediate chaos, looting was desperate and random, but reports from the weeks following showed increasingly organized patterns. Groups would sweep through neighborhoods systematically. Survivors reported that homes were hit in sequence: bedrooms, kitchens, then anything else of value. Some criminals were observed essentially cataloging homes, checking quickly, taking high-value items, marking homes for return visits. Interestingly, historical records from natural disasters show a different pattern than economic collapses, but both involve sequencing. Natural disasters produce immediate chaos but relatively quick restoration of order. The systematic looting phase is compressed. Economic collapses produce longer periods of sustained disorder. The systematic looting becomes more sophisticated over time. Argentina's collapse again provides documentation. Early in the crisis, looting was reactive and obvious. Within months, criminal networks had developed sophisticated approaches. They would surveil neighborhoods, identify high-value targets, and hit them systematically. Police reports describe homes being stripped in clear patterns, evidence that criminals were following systematic search procedures, not random grabbing. One particularly illuminating account comes from survivors of the siege of Sarajevo. As the siege wore on and desperation increased, a survivor described how criminal groups, sometimes just neighbors turned opportunistic, would enter homes with actual checklists. They had learned through trial and error what was valuable and where it was typically kept. They had optimized their approach through repetition. This is selection pressure creating efficient predators. The historical lesson is clear. Chaos might be random initially, but it doesn't stay random. Criminal behavior undergoes rapid evolution during sustained collapse. Those who survive and succeed in criminal activity do so because they've learned to be efficient. And efficiency means systematic targeting, sequential searching, and pattern-based exploitation. Understanding the criminal sequence has defensive implications. If you know they're hitting bedroom, kitchen, garage, and office in some variant of that order, you can disrupt the pattern. First implication, don't concentrate everything in the obvious locations. The reason criminals follow the pattern is because it works. Most people store predictably. If your only food is in the kitchen, your only tools are in the garage, your only documents are in the office, you're following the script they expect. Distribution is a defense. Store critical supplies in multiple locations, including non-obvious ones. Make them work for it. Make them spend time searching. Time is their enemy. The longer they're in your home, the higher their risk. Second implication, layer your defenses by sequence. If bedroom is the first target, make bedroom access difficult. If kitchen is second, ensure kitchen access, especially from garage or back entrances, is secured beyond standard locks. You can't make everything a fortress, but you can create friction at the expected sequence points. Each delay increases the chance they'll move to an easier target. Third implication, decoy and misdirection. If they expect valuables in the master bedroom, leave some, but not your critical items. A small safe that's visible and contains some cash and cheap jewelry can satisfy the bedroom expectation, while your actual valuables are hidden elsewhere. Criminals operating under time pressure often stop searching once they've found enough in the expected location. Meet their expectations with acceptable losses while securing what truly matters. Fourth implication, detection focus. If you're setting up security measures with limited resources, Focus on the sequence entry points. An alarm or camera on the master bedroom door alerts you to step 1 of their sequence. If you know their starting bedroom, you know kitchen and garage are next. You can respond before they complete the sequence. Fifth implication, recovery prioritization. If you're compromised, understanding the sequence helps you quickly assess damage and prioritize response. Did they make it past the bedroom? Then check kitchen immediately. Did they reach the garage? Then assume tools are gone and adjust plans accordingly. Did they get to the office? Then assume identity compromise and begin damage control. The sequence gives you an assessment framework during chaos. Sixth implication, counter-surveillance. Since sophisticated criminals are surveilling before they hit, you can use the known pattern against them. If someone is casing homes to identify targets, they're looking for indicators of the 4 target areas: bedroom windows to see layout, kitchen visibility to assess supplies, garage doors opening to reveal contents, home office indicators. Minimizing these signals during pre-collapse period reduces your target profile. The defensive mindset shift is critical. Stop thinking of your home as rooms with stuff in them. Start thinking of it as a layered resource system that criminals will attempt to exploit systematically. They have a plan. You need a better plan.